Hello, I'm Jeanine Notter, and this is Chattin with Jeanine. This week's show is all about heating and air conditioning, and I brought in an expert to tell us about these different units and tax rebates and the new laws, the Clean Air Act, and all that stuff. It's Dale Sanford of Sanford Temperature Control. Welcome, Dale.
Thank you, Jeanine.
I've got the table this week. I usually have the couch, so a little different being up here on a table.
Yep.
So how long have you been in business?
28 years.
And I presume you're the owner of
Yes.
Sanford Temperature Control?
Yep.
And there's so many questions I have for you. There's all these different air conditioning units, heating units, hot water heaters, and I thought about doing a show like this because this year, after 11 years, I had to replace my hot water heater.
Yep.
And then the AC started leaking and I had to replace that. And then I found out that if I replaced the air conditioner, my heater wasn't going to be compatible. So I ended up replacing everything.
Right.
And then I didn't want the existing units to go in the trash because there was nothing wrong with them. Mm-hmm. So I posted it on Facebook, and a veteran came and took the heater and the air conditioner.
Oh, that's good.
So it didn't go to waste. And I met you, and we've been chatting about all kinds of things.
Yep.
So let's talk first about the tax credits.
Okay.
Different units, go ahead.
Basically, there's a whole range of tax credits available, different efficiency, furnaces, air conditioning, water heaters, lots of different products. You can claim up to $1,500 in tax credits on your income taxes for high efficiency units. Gas furnaces have to be 95% AFUE, that's annual fuel utilization efficiency. That's the rating they use for how efficient the unit is.
Okay, you lost me.
Okay.
What does all that mean?
Basically, the higher the number, the less it costs you to operate it. And it calculates both the fuel source usage and also electrical consumption. So if it's rated at 95%, that means you're getting 95% of your energy back in heat, and you're only losing 5% into your exhaust.
Oh, okay.
So if it's 95% or higher for a gas furnace, it qualifies for $1,500 tax credit. There are other efficiency ratings too, like an oil-fired boiler has to be 90% or efficient or more, or higher than that. There's lots of others too. There are some like oil warm air furnaces that don't necessarily qualify for the tax credit because they don't meet the efficiencies, but if they have what's called a ECM blower motor, a variable speed blower motor, uses much less electricity, so that does qualify for a partial tax credit. There's a whole range of different things that do qualify, different pricing and everything. Mm-hmm. Not everybody gets the $1,500, but air conditioning has to be 16 SEER, which is another rating.
SEER, S-E-E-R?
Yeah, S-E-E-R stands for Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio. And basically that's the same idea. The higher the number, the less it costs you to operate it. I kind of like to explain it like gas mileage in a car. You know, it costs you less money to go a certain distance. Same thing with the air conditioning. The higher the number, the less it costs you to operate it to get the same amount of cooling. So the higher the number, the better off you are. And if you hit 16s here and above, that does qualify for a tax credit also, $1,500.
Now, there are some new laws with this, the green laws, the Clean Air Act and all that units need to be replaced in houses. And you find they're expensive, and not everybody thinks ahead to put money aside for when their unit dies, their heater, their air conditioner, whatever. Like so let's say you buy a house that's 20 years old. That's already an old furnace that you're getting with the house.
Absolutely.
And if it comes time to replace it, you might run into the same problem that we had, that the new unit is no longer compatible with the old unit.
Right.
And so what I'm worried about, and I'm running for state rep, so I'm trying to understand all this stuff, and this is a real concern for me as a taxpayer, as a citizen, and maybe a legislator, if I make it, is if only people with a lot of money can afford these new units, what does that mean? Because, you know, there's people that can't afford it. What I foresee is subsidizing. Which means that everybody's taxes are going to go skyrocket to pay for everybody to have all the new units. But that doesn't mean you're going to be bringing up people's lifestyles. It's going to be bringing down people's lifestyles, because with socialism, everyone is brought down to the lowest common denominator except for those in power. And that's a concern to me. And as a business owner, how would that affect your business? Would you have to work for the federal government? You know, because they do have a nasty habit now of taking over businesses and running them.
Yeah. Well, I like to think that that would never happen to us, but I mean, who knows down the road? But the tax credits, of course, somebody, that money has to come out of the federal stimulus funds, which basically
Which-
somebody has to pay back.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but it's already 13 trillion, above 13
Right.
trillion. I was thinking about this on the way over here today. Sometimes in school, in the elementary school, the kids will save things like bottle caps or twist ties or something to count to 1 million. And it takes them a long time. Sometimes they don't even get the whole 1 million in the year. They have to go to the next year. But just to have a visual of how much 1 million is. 1 million, and now go to 1 trillion. Does anyone have any idea how, obviously
Right.
they don't in Washington, how much 1 trillion is, let alone 13 trillion? So they're printing all this money, it makes it worth less and less. Just
Right.
like if diamonds were as abundant as sand, they're worth a lot less, aren't they? That's the
Yep.
same with money. It's an easy way to understand it. So they're borrowing from China. So who owns our country? I mean, these are all real concerns, and I've been talking to people who own businesses too, for that very reason. It's like, enough is enough.
right. Well, we're certainly concerned about tax increases. It affects everybody's business. The bottom line is affected the more taxes you pay. So, it's certainly a big concern.
All right, so we talked about the tax credits for the units that are available. On average, because you've been in business 28 years, what do people buy? Do you see people buying more of the high efficiency units and making payments? How do you do that?
Believe it or not, we do find a good portion of our customers go with the top of the line equipment, even before the tax credits. But right now, it's a no-brainer because of the tax credit. There's also manufacturer rebates out there up to $1,100 for a complete system. The gas company has rebates available for natural gas equipment. You can get up to $1,000 on a boiler, a gas-fired boiler that's efficient, high efficiency.
Yeah.
$400 for a warm air furnace. So with the gas company rebates, the manufacturer rebates, the tax credits, it's right now, I mean, it's a no-brainer to go with the top of the line equipment.
Now, there was some state rebates too, but we don't know. I would assume they have run out of money.
They only had a small chunk of money for that, and it started back in April, and I would assume by now most of it has been spent. So,
Do you sell more of the oil or natural gas?
we do a lot of natural gas, propane, and oil. It's pretty much, I'd say, about a third of each.
So the units themselves, if you buy a furnace, it's good for either or?
No, oil furnaces are strictly oil. A warm air furnace can, or even some of the boilers, can be natural gas or propane. You just put a little conversion kit in there to convert it to whichever gas you're going to be burning in it.
When we bought our house in California, it was 20 years old when we bought it. And we lived there 6 years, and then we moved here. We bought our house new. We've been there 11 years. And when we got the new heating and air conditioning unit, we had our ducts cleaned. It's disgusting.
Yep.
I mean, just think about the dust that was in my old house. And the boy or your employee that came out to clean our ducts, he said he'd never heard of duct cleaning before. He's like, because I asked how often it should be done, and he said, I don't never heard of it being done at all. I guess once in a lifetime. But no, there was a lot of dust in there. And when I do my big cleaning and I take my little vacuum and I clean out the ducts, there was one unit, the return air duct in the kitchen. It was gross. I mean, it took me a long time again and again to get all that dust out. And that's just where my vacuum could reach.
Right.
So what's lurking in our
Oh, there's some
ducts?
awful stuff in there, especially on your air return, because basically you're pulling air in, stuff falls in there and it gets all the way back to the furnace, and your air filter cleans the air going into the furnace, but everything before that, they can be very disgusting. 20 years worth of dust and dirt and dog hair and everything that falls in there, it accumulates. And we've seen some older homes with easily over an inch of dirt all the way around the duct.
Wow. So how do you do that? How do you clean the duct?
We have what's called a roto brush system. It's basically a industrial vacuum cleaner with like a brush on the end of the hose that actually spins and sweeps the duct.
And it doesn't tear or any?
No,
Okay.
no. We use different types of brushes for different duct materials. If it's a softer duct, use a softer brush. But it actually sweeps it clean, and then the vacuum cleaner sucks all the dirt up.
Well, when he finished, he brought out the filter, because I got an air purification system, because we all have allergies.
Yep.
And I figured as long as we're spending all that money, we're going to be in debt forever, I might as well get the air purifier system as well. And he brought it out and showed me, and it was piled up with dust.
Yep.
And then I had to replace it. It was brand new, and after one cleaning, I had to replace it.
Yep.
So now I have a different one. Where was I going with that?
Air purifier, maybe.
Air purifier?
Those are very nice to have also because they do catch a lot of dirt and dust and mold spores, things like that. Keep them out of your home air. People with allergies, they're great for cleaning up the air. So that was a good choice with that.
Well, last year I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
I took a week off and I stayed home. I cleaned my entire bedroom, the walls. I washed the walls. I took the bed apart, cleaned everything. The frame, sprayed the mattress with dust stuff and everything. It took a week to clean every single thing in my room because I couldn't breathe. So I'm much better now, and I'm hoping with that air purifier system I won't have to do that again.
Yeah, that'll make a big difference.
But it was a once in a 10-year, 10-year cleaning.
Yep.
I mean, do people clean their walls? I mean, how often? You think about it. You put up wallpaper or you paint and then you never look at it again. Or you don't touch it again, but they get dirty.
Oh yeah, a lot of times when you have air vents, if you do have any dirt and dust in your system, it'll blow out and you may not see it, the little microscopic particles, but over time you'll see like a little area where the air's been blowing on your wall where it'll be dark.
Yes.
That's because the dirt is sticking to your wall and it builds up over time. So.
Wow. And air conditioning, do people have air conditioning? Not everybody has it here. But
you'd be surprised. I'd say probably every home built in the past 25 years either has it or has been prepped for it when it was built.
Well, when we moved here from California, and I remember the realtor telling us, "Oh, you don't need an air conditioner.
Yeah.
We only have 12 hot days."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, we can. I guess not so bad." But I was on hold, and I heard the weather report, and it said high today, 93. I went, 93 is hot. We might want to rethink that, not getting an AC.
Right.
So glad I have an AC.
Yeah, I think it's a generation thing. I mean, our parents years ago didn't have air conditioning. People grew up without air conditioning, but nowadays, baby boomers and downward, pretty much everybody wants it. It's just one of those things that, you kind of have to have.
Do you put in mostly mostly central air, or do you do window units too?
We don't do window units. We do a lot of central air conditioning systems. We do a lot of ductless split systems. We have a unit that hangs on the wall, or sometimes 2 or 3 units, 4 units, all attached to one compressor outside with individual thermostats called ductless.
Which kind uses the least amount of electricity?
They're pretty compatible. The ductless systems are very efficient, and central air conditioning can be very efficient nowadays too. You can take a system that's 20 years old and install a new high-efficiency air conditioning system. It'll cost you less than half to operate.
Now you tell me.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, you have a high-efficiency system in your home, so,
Yes. Yeah.
so it should cost you a lot less.
We hope. That was the idea. And I was talking to somebody today, and I was telling about the show today. We were going to talk about furnaces and air conditioners and all that, and he was telling me about geothermal something. What does that mean?
Basically, geothermal is basically what you're doing. Instead of taking heat or cooling from air or water, you're actually using the ground temperature. The ground down below the surface maintains about 50 degrees year-round.
Like the basement. The basement's
Right.
50 degrees here.
Correct. So basically what you're doing with a geothermal is you're taking heat from your home and dumping it into the ground in the summertime. And in the wintertime, you're removing heat from the ground and bringing it into your home.
Wow, that's interesting. How
Yeah.
does that work? You build a room like an old ice house?
No, basically it's a piece of equipment with a ground loop of water. Usually it's a sealed system. You have pipes that go down into the ground, sometimes 600-700 feet deep, depending on what you need.
Oh,
that's not too common. 3 or 4 is the average, 300-400 feet deep. What you're doing is you're actually putting water down into the ground, and you're picking up heat or removing heat from that water and bringing it into the home. You have a package inside the house that actually distributes the heat. It's an air conditioning system, basically.
It's in a pipe?
Yes.
And the pipe goes down. So
Yes.
it's not a room that a chipmunk can
No,
get into.
no. There are different
Escape.
types. There is some types where you can actually pull water like out of a well, run it through the equipment, and then dump it back out.
That's interesting. Do
Yeah.
people go for that? How many?
They do. It's a very expensive system, but right now you can actually get 30% of the total system paid back in a tax credit. And that does not cap out at $1,500. It's
No.
30% of the total amount.
This geothermal idea, does it work in the event of an ice storm and there's no electricity?
No, you do need to have electricity to operate it.
Okay, all right.
Home generators are getting very, very popular these days. A lot of people are installing them in their homes for that simple fact that, we have a lot of power outages now. So
Yes, during the ice storm, though, you open the front door and you hear,
Yeah.
When we got our electricity back, it was quiet out there.
Yep.
All right, so about the electricity, my next thing I wanted to ask you about was the hot water heaters, because I know that there's one that doesn't use a tank.
Yes, a tankless, on-demand tankless water heater. Basically hangs on the wall, and you turn on your faucet, and the water flow going through it lights the burners, and it actually will heat the water instantly. When you shut your faucet off, it shuts off. So you save a lot of gas that way, because you're not heating up a tank full of water constantly when you don't need to. Very efficient, very neat way to heat hot water. It does require a small amount of power, but it's usually like 1 amp. It's very, very tiny, so you can run it off of a small generator if you needed to with a power outage. I know some people like...
But you have to have gasoline to run the generator.
Or propane or natural gas, depending on what type of generator you have. Yeah, it does take fuel. So.
All right. So electricity, though, if you have gas, do you need electricity too?
Most gas water heaters you do. There are some type that vent into a chimney that aren't really all that efficient because they have a little standing pilot. Those type, you can heat your water without electricity, but those are becoming very, very uncommon. Most people aren't using those anymore.
We should go down the list and talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of all these things we talked about today, starting with the hot water heater.
Okay.
So the tankless hot water heater, the advantage is it uses very little electricity.
Very little electricity and very little gas. You're only using the gas to heat the hot water that you need. They're very, very efficient. One downfall is if your bathroom or kitchen area is at one end of the house, if you put it at the other end of the house, and it's a very large home, it's going to take a little bit to get the water there. When you turn on the faucet, it's not instant. It takes, it has to run through the pipe to get to your area.
Is it at the high end of the expense to put it in?
They're expensive, yes, but they're all electronic and they're nice little units. A little more money than putting in a tank type water heater, yes.
Okay, and in the event of an ice storm?
You need a little bit of electricity to operate it,
so
but
you
very
need
little.
to have a generator?
Yes.
All right. When I changed out my hot water heater, I went with the tank for that very reason that during the ice storm I still had hot water.
Yep.
It's freezing everywhere else, but at least I didn't have to go to the refugee camp at the gym.
Sure.
To take a shower. So,
yep.
And that's a plus. All right, so the new furnaces, the pluses and the minuses?
With the multiple stage furnaces, they're not only very efficient, but they're very, very comfortable. What happens is instead of heating up your house and shut down, you feel cold, and blasts you with heat, shuts down, you feel cold. It runs for a very long time in a low fire, just maintains your temperature. If you set it at 70 degrees, you're going to get exactly 70 degrees, and it will just stay there because you're always getting a little bit of heat out of it. So again, with a standard furnace, single speed, it blasts you with heat, then it shuts down, you feel cold air, feel a little bit of a chill, the thermostat says I need some heat, so it turns it back on again. Sends you some heat, then it shuts down, you feel cold again. And it's kind of an endless cycle all day long.
Right, so with these new high-end furnaces, it has three different temperatures,
yes.
And it just maintains it all day long, so
Correct.
It's always running a little bit.
There's times when it will shut down, but most of the time on a cold day, it runs almost continuously in the low stage and just maintains your temperature.
So they use less electricity.
Yes.
But the downside is they cost a lot of money.
To install, yes, but it will save a lot too on your gas bill and also electrical.
How long does it take to pay for itself?
It depends on what you're replacing. If you're replacing a standard, like say 70% furnace that was put in the 70s with a standing pilot, you can pay for it in a couple of years, no problem. In savings, energy savings. Another big thing is hybrid heat these days, where you put in a very high efficient furnace and a high efficient heat pump.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that before the show, the hybrid heat.
Yep. We've had many customers that have given us testimonials where they have actually cut their heating bills in half the first year. Because basically what you have is a high efficiency furnace, which saves you gas, but also the heat pump heats your home most of the time. Until it gets really, really cold out, then the gas will kick in. But they're very efficient.
Hybrid heat, it's called?
Yep.
Is
It's an air source heat pump attached to a gas or oil furnace, so you have the best of both worlds there. The heat pumps are very efficient, except when it gets really cold out. When it gets down below about 30 degrees out, it's pretty hard to maintain your temperature in the house. It has a harder time picking up the heat.
Okay, so that's the downside of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you match it with a gas or oil furnace, you get the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. So.
And then air conditioning.
Air conditioning, again, a two-stage compressor is very, very efficient and very comfortable. It's basically the same thing as with a furnace. You're not running all the time. You don't need everything or nothing. Sometimes you just need a little bit. So having two stages, you have your low speed and your high speed. It basically runs in the low more than it will the high and maintains your temperature.
You know what? I had a question for you because I got the air purifier system and it's taking out all the molds and the allergens.
Yep.
But now I'm thinking I don't think I want to open my windows ever again.
You really, if you have allergies and things, you really shouldn't anyway, especially this time of year. Just leave your house closed up and run the air purifier.
Then you don't get that yellow scum from
Right.
from the pine trees when they explode twice a year.
Yep. Yep.
So what didn't I go over? I'm missing something.
There's actually a water heater now called a hybrid water heater too. That's starting to get very, very popular, and that does qualify for a tax credit as well.
Hybrid water heater, is
Yeah.
it along the same lines as the hybrid heat?
Basically, yes. What you have is a heat pump attached to an electric water tank, and we actually sell quite a few of those lately. What it is an electric. If you have an electric water heater, this is a great application for it. You take out the old electric water heater, you put this in the same place, you plumb it up, hot and cold pipes, hook the power to it, and a condensate drain, and it's a very easy installation. And what it does, it actually extracts heat from the air around the water heater to heat your hot water instead of running the elements, electric elements. Very, very efficient. And another bonus is it actually dehumidifies your basement too.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah. So they're really nice.
In California or the West Coast, in the warmer states, you see on top of houses. We had them on our house. They sit on top of the roof.
Swamp cooler.
No. Oh yeah, I remember those. Yeah, we had that too.
Yeah.
But no, it spins around to get the heat
Oh,
out of
okay.
the attic.
Yeah.
Like we cannot go in our attic this time of the year. You'll die. You'll
Right.
suffocate and die. There's no air. So that means that my house is insulated. I
Yes.
presume.
Well, a lot of that heat, no matter how well your insulation is, I mean, some of that heat is going to come through the ceiling into your home. So yes, if your question is, should you ventilate your attic? Yes, absolutely. That helps a lot with your cooling bills.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, how you just don't see that? Do you know what I'm talking
I
about?
do.
I can draw a picture, but what do
Yep.
you call them then?
It's like a turbine.
Turbine,
Yeah,
yes.
it's like a,
So you recommend turbines?
yes.
They're like little fans. They're round and they
Correct.
spin around.
What happens is the hot air actually exiting your attic makes it spin. Because of the little veins in
Yes.
it makes it spin. The faster it spins, the more air it sucks.
And that'll lower the cost of your heating and air bill?
Well, your air conditioning
air
bill
conditioning
anyway,
bill,
because you're
yeah.
pulling all that hot air out of
So
your attic.
what? All right, now winter time.
It really won't make much effect in the winter. It might help with your roof. If you have problems with ice dams, it's because you've got hot air in the attic and it's actually melting the snow in your roof, causing it to melt and then refreeze. So by getting that heat out of your attic, yes, it will help with that.
Do you have to cover? You don't have to cover them in the winter.
No,
then?
they're pretty much watertight, just the way they're shaped. So
Do you have those? Do they have them like at one of the big stores, Home Depot?
there are companies that install them in this area. I've seen them many times. They actually make solar-powered ones as well.
Really?
They're electric, but they have solar power that run them. So
I'm gonna look into that. I don't,
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
you don't see them too often in New England. They are out there. I've seen them a few times. Some people think they're kind of funny looking on the roof, but
Right, and plus, you know, you don't see a lot of them out here. But if you
Right.
recommend them, I think that's something I want to find out more about. And
yep. Having a well-ventilated attic is great in the summer and winter.
Now, over the 11 years that we've lived here, we've actually had service people over for all kinds of things, and more than once have had a heating and air person come and tell us that, you know, you really should put money aside and start saving money to replace your heating and air. I'm like, wow, and I don't. That's something you just don't think about. You know, you have
That's
your
right.
car payment, you have your house payment. You don't think about having a special fund. And how many people have any extra money? Like the way the economy is right now, people are getting by from paycheck to paycheck, assuming they have a job. A lot of people are out of work, and that's it's really scary. But it is something that you should think about: putting money
Right.
away for your your kids' college education. Also, putting money away to replace the things in your home.
That's
so that
true.
It doesn't come to subsidizing.
Yeah, the average life of a furnace or air conditioning system is about 15 years. That's what the industry standard is. So basically, yes. I mean, you put in a new furnace and cooling system 15 years later, you're going to have to be thinking about replacing it. And with the changes in technology, in my opinion, in 15 years from now, what's a great furnace right now will be low
Outdated.
end, and there'll be something much better too. So, yeah, it is something that people should really consider. One funny thing that just came to mind when you mentioned that about being a lot of money, I found that in the past year, people aren't as apt to put things on credit cards. I have found that back a few years ago, everybody put everything on their credit cards. Now a lot of people are paying cash.
Well, I put my new unit on.
I know you did.
And I had another bill due at the chiropractor.
Yeah.
I pulled out the credit card. The first time
Yeah.
ever it was declined. I'm like, oh, I bought a heater.
Yeah, well, people are still using credit cards, but I find it's a little bit less than it used to be. I don't know if people are just afraid to do that or what the story is, but either that or they've saved up money the past few years because a lot of people are paying cash now for systems.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
It is very hard to do, but we're finding a lot more of it now.
I had a question for you. All right, I said we've been in our house for 11 years, and our hot water heater had to be replaced this year.
Yep.
Now, I live in a development, so there are houses down the street from me that they said, wow, your hot water heater lasted that long. I have 8 people that live in my house, and my hot water heater lasted 11 years. Down the street, they have smaller families, and theirs only lasted 5 to 7 years. Why is that? Is it because we use it so much?
That could actually help it, yes. A lot of times if it's sitting not being used, it can make it rust out quicker.
So maybe smaller families could take in laundry, you know?
Yeah, there you go. It's quite possible that, maybe differences in water too, minerals in the water can affect water tanks and things.
Maybe at the start of the neighborhood, they're getting all the minerals by the time they get to my house.
It could be. Or maybe you've maintained yours better. Maybe they didn't have any service done on theirs, which is important to do. So that could be too.
I don't know that we have on our hot water
Okay.
heater. Yeah, it's just noticed it was leaking and the new carpet was wet.
Yeah.
Trying to insulate, that basement area a little bit.
Yep.
Oh, we got 33 seconds left. Well, thank you, Dale.
Okay,
That was
Jeanine.
fun.
All right.
I hope the viewers learned some things about, and I wasn't too chatty, my own chatty way. You've been watching Chattin' with Jeanine. Thanks for watching.